I've been reading through comments on one of my recent videos about how talking to strangers can be so common here in the US. And there were thousands of stories about everyday life. People talking in grocery stores, elevators, people talking in checkout lines or waiting rooms. If there's a spare 30 seconds available, someone will probably start a conversation. But one comment completely changed how I think about American friendliness. A woman said that she drove rideshare for Uber or Lyft, and whenever she picked somebody up, she tried to leave them feeling better than when they got in. Not richer or smarter or transformed in any strange way, just slightly better. And it got me thinking that it's a beautiful way to look at the world because she wasn't talking about making friends and she wasn't talking about networking or getting something out of it in return. She simply thought that making another person's day just that little bit brighter was worth doing.
You better take cover.
So I kept reading. People were saying things like, I just like making people smile, or I want people to feel welcome. And if I can make someone's day better, why wouldn't I? I never know what somebody is going through. And the more comments I read, the more I started seeing the same idea repeated. Because maybe Americans aren't always starting conversations because they want something. Maybe sometimes they're starting conversations because they want to give something. And that's a very different motivation. As someone who didn't grow up here, accent's a bit of a giveaway on that one. I think I originally misunderstood all of this because when somebody starts talking to you unexpectedly, your brain naturally starts searching for the reason. What do they want? What's the purpose? What's really going on here? Americans often seem to start from a different assumption. Maybe it's nowhere, maybe nowhere at all. Maybe they just wanted to make the moment that little bit better. The funny thing is, I don't think I would have interpreted those interactions this way when I first moved here. Because back then, if somebody started talking to me unexpectedly, I usually assumed that there must be a reason. Yeah, maybe they needed something. They were trying to sell me something. Or maybe they were working their way towards some bigger point that they hadn't gotten to yet. Because that's really how I would have thought about it. Conversations, they usually have a purpose. They go somewhere. They lead to something. But the longer that I've lived here, the more I've realized that many of these interactions aren't trying to achieve anything at all. The conversation itself is the point. The compliment's the point. The smile or the joke, the little moment of connection, that's the point. And that's a very different way of looking at the world. Because if you believe every interaction needs a purpose, then a lot of American friendliness can seem confusing. But if you believe making someone's day slightly better is a worthwhile thing to do, suddenly it all just starts making sense. I started noticing it everywhere once I understood that. The cashier complimenting somebody's shirt, or the stranger holding a door open, neighbours waving, waitresses making jokes, the person in line at Home Depot making conversation. None of these things are particularly important, but that's actually what the point is. They're tiny acts, tiny investments, tiny moments of positive energy that cost you almost nothing. And many Americans seem surprisingly willing to put that little bit of effort into someone else's day. But one thing that confused me when I first moved here was compliments. As Americans seem to give compliments far more freely than anywhere else that I've lived. Someone likes your shirt, yeah, they'll tell you. Someone likes your accent, they'll tell you that. Someone likes your Jeep. Someone likes your dog. Your dog's actually about to receive more compliments than you've had all year. But this can really feel suspicious when you aren't used to it. And it definitely did for me, because as an Aussie, we don't hand out compliments casually. We kind of hand them out like we're managing a bit of inventory, like, careful everyone. We're down to only 3 compliments left for this quarter. We need to start budgeting. Americans seem much less protective of them. And I think part of the reason is that they see compliments differently. Because for many Americans, a compliment isn't a major emotional event. It's kind of like a small gift, a tiny opportunity to make somebody feel good. And if it costs nothing to give, why not? So I was talking about this with a friend here recently, and they said, you never know what kind of day someone is having, which is such a simple idea, but it also explains so much. Because you don't know if somebody just got good news or terrible news, if they're feeling lonely or if they're struggling or if they just buried a loved one. You don't know if they're having the best day of their life. You just don't know. So if a smile costs nothing, and if a kind word costs nothing, if a friendly interaction costs nothing, then why not do it? So once I started thinking about compliments that way, I started noticing that same pattern in other places too. One thing I've always found fascinating about America is how freely encouragement gets handed out. And people here seem remarkably willing to cheer each other on. You're starting a new job. Yeah, good luck, buddy. Thinking about starting a new business. Hey, go for it. Trying something difficult. You've got this. As an Australian, that took some getting used to because encouragement can sometimes feel like something that should be earned. But over here, it often seems to be given freely, not because people think success is guaranteed, but because they genuinely want to see other people do well. And when you look at it that way, encouragement starts to feel a lot like those compliments. It's another small gift, another tiny act that costs almost nothing. Another way of saying, I really hope things work out for you. Many people here don't view kindness as something that only happens when there's a reason for it. They view it as a responsibility, not a huge responsibility or something heroic, just a small one. Leave things a little better than you found them. Leave people a little better than you found them. And honestly, once I started seeing it, I realized how often it was happening to me. When someone compliments my accent or someone asks me how my day is going, someone making a joke while we're waiting in line, these interactions, they don't last very long, but they almost always leave me feeling slightly better than what I did before. I think that's one of the biggest things that I misunderstood about America. I initially thought friendliness was about sociability, but I think a lot of it really is about generosity, not financial generosity, but emotional generosity. The willingness to spend just a little bit of energy making somebody else's day better, even if you'll never see them again. I guess, especially if you'll never see them again, because then there's no reward, no future benefit or relationship to build. It's just the act itself. And someone said to me recently that the world is hard enough already. And honestly, that might be the entire script because the world is hard enough already. If that's your starting assumption, then a lot of American behavior suddenly makes sense too. Why compliment someone? Well, the world's hard enough already. Why hold a door open? Because the world is hard enough already. Why make a joke in line? Why welcome a visitor? Why smile at someone that you don't know? The world is hard enough already. None of these things change the world, but maybe they change 10 seconds. Maybe they change one moment. Maybe they improve one person's day by a fraction of a percent. You know what? That can be enough. Because the more comments I read from all of you and the more conversations I have with people here, the more convinced I became that many Americans share a quiet belief. Not that every interaction needs to become meaningful, not that every stranger needs to become a friend, just that if you have a chance to leave someone feeling slightly better than before, then that's a chance it's worth taking. And once you understand that, a lot of American friendliness stops looking random or strange and it starts looking intentional. And that's not because Americans are trying to change someone's life. It's because they're often trying to improve just a tiny piece of it. And sometimes for one person on one difficult day, that tiny piece turns out to matter a lot more than anyone realizes. If you've enjoyed this one and would like to support the channel, there's a Buy Me a Coffee link in the description. You can also listen to more from Down Under to Down South on your favourite podcast players too. Hooroo, mateys.
You better take cover.